What is a $400 dinner like at Disney World's most expensive restaurant?
It's me, Breedlove. I'm not wearing a hat. I see someone that looks familiar. Wait a minute. Is this Quincy?
Who is she?
What? You look amazing. You're so elegant.
You look amazing and elegant. Look how cute you are.
I just took off my hat. What happened? Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we go.
Victorian Alberts, here we come. Breedlove,
Yes.
are you ready for Victorian Alberts?
I've never been more ready for anything in my life, and I think tonight's the night.
Now still, our review is going to be completely unbiased. We always try to give both the goods and the bads of any situation, and that's what we'll be doing tonight, even though we are invited by Disney, right?
Oh yeah. I mean. You can't buy my friendship.
Now, Victoria and Albert's, in addition to being the most expensive restaurant in Disney World, has a few other unique aspects. For one, Victoria and Albert's does have multiple dining rooms and a chef's table experience. We ate what is typically served in the Queen Victoria room or at the chef's table, which is a 9-course meal. Those who are eating in the standard dining room get a 7-course meal. Although it is possible that you will be able to upcharge for the 9-course depending on what day you go in the standard dining room. That's not guaranteed, but definitely ask with your server if it is an option. It's also important to note that kids under the age of 10 years old cannot dine here. It is a very expensive experience. It's one that I would say is probably better served for grown-ups who will fully appreciate it, but kids under 10 absolutely cannot dine there anyway. And while the menu is prefixed, they can accommodate special diets with advance notice. So for instance, when they called me to confirm our reservation, they did ask about special diets, and I was able to tell them that Breedlove is vegan, so he could opt into the vegan menu. But if you were allergic to anything on the menu, you could let them know when you check in, and they will be able to accommodate the options on the menu for your allergies.
Okay, Quincy. I am having a difficult time taking this all in right now because of the beauty
Why?
of
Because it's the most magical place you've ever been in your life?
everything. Yeah, and I feel like I have the most magical date.
Aww. We're gonna go ahead and do our tasting notes now because
It was too fancy.
It was too fancy. We didn't want to speak and interrupt other people's $300, $400 dinners, so we're going to go ahead and talk about them now. And with the powers of movie magic, it'll look like it's all
With the powers of what magic?
movie magic.
Okay, I didn't know. It sounded like with the powers of new magic.
Is this how a person sits when they've eaten at Victoria and Albert's?
I think so.
10 courses.
It was 9. It was 9
Oh, it
courses.
was 9 courses.
All right, so Breedlove and I are completely done with our meal. We're now in the lobby at Grand Floridian. It is the middle of the night. Victoria and Albert's is a 4-hour meal for us. It took 5 with coverage, so just keep in mind you're going to need to plan for a long meal. Also, there's a dress code, as you can probably tell.
Yes.
Men are encouraged to wear jackets. If you do not have a jacket, you can wear a long sleeve button down, but men are encouraged to wear suit jackets, dress jackets. And women are encouraged to wear like cocktail dresses, formal dresses. It's a semi-formal to formal establishment. All right, so first we had the aperitif, the amuse-bouche for the meal. We both had the pink pineapple, Thai basil, and spiced mango, which was the little pink block.
Unbelievable.
I've never had pineapple taste like that. It was it was all of the sweetness and like slight tartness of pineapple with none of the like acidic bite that pineapple typically has.
I agree. It was very, would you say alkaline?
Yeah,
Is that
I
how
have
you
no
say
idea.
It was very neutral.
It
wasn't spicy.
And it had something on the top. Part of the Thai basil spice mango topping was like crunchy, which made it texturally very interesting. I absolutely love
spicy.
It. I would have, not overly, but
and
a
it
little.
made it savory. It was a sweet and savory.
Yes. I would have eaten 100 of those and then regretted it every moment of the rest of the meal.
Texturally, the pink pineapple was different too.
It was like softer.
Less fibrous.
Yeah, less fibrous. It was like really easy to chew through. My second aperitif was the langoustine tartelette with watermelon and finger limes. This was my favorite of the aperitifs. It was amazing texture because it had the crunch from the tartelette and the soft kind of like melts in your mouth langoustine and all the toppings. It had the like seafoody, shellfishy flavor of langoustine, which is kind of like mini lobster, kind of like shrimp, kind of like crawfish. But that kind of, shellfish. But that was my favorite of the 3. I think you have to like fish to like it, but it was very, very good.
My second was the panisse shiso tempura, and it was almost like kind of a sort of a sushi-esque sort of item. It was very good, and then it had this really nice plum sauce on the bottom, holding it onto the plate sort of and giving it some sweetness.
And then my last one was the Cinco Jotas Iberico with miso caramel as an eclair, and that Iberico is one of the finest cuts of Iberico ham or pork in the world. And it wasn't an eclair; it literally was pastry filled with stuff with the ham on top, or the Iberico pork on top. And when I bit into it, the inside of the eclair had kind of a mustardy sort of thing to it, except it wasn't like an overwhelming mustard flavor. It was very well balanced.
So our waiter Christopher described the third as being something to evoke whimsy.
Yep. And chips and dip. He called it chips and dip.
He called it chips and dip. I would call it more of a crudité. The really, really outrageous standout item of this particular dish was the potato glass. We should have, I mean, they said it was to evoke whimsy, so we should have been more whimsical with it.
We should have been more whimsical.
We should have gone level Cirque du Soleil.
We should have made glasses out of it. So my first course was the Royal Belgian Caviar with cauliflower panna cotta, and that was paired with the Drapier Carte d'Or Brut champagne. And for Breedlove, his first course was paired with the yuzu seltzer. For me, the panna cotta was amazing. I have had whipped cauliflower before, but because this was a panna cotta, it was unbelievably smooth and still had all of that cauliflower flavor. And it also had a creaminess that almost made it taste like cheesy cauliflower, but in a very upscale way. So it was very, very good. Now, Victoria & Albert's does have a seasonal menu. Around every 6 months, they totally change it. So it can be very, very different from when you go one time to if you are able to go again, or you just might not get the same things that we're getting now, but they have a very high standard of quality and you'll get the same quality that we are getting now. As for the wine on that course, the bubbles were so fine that it literally, the way it went down, it just fed your appetite. It made me want more of that cauliflower panna cotta. Paired amazingly. Of course, it was designed to do that, so it was awesome.
I just want to say the pairing of all of the zero proof beverages was a dazzling journey.
I wish you could buy those.
I wish you could buy those too. I want to be able to drink those at home.
I'm not a wine connoisseur per se. I'm having a couple of different whites and a couple of different reds, but nothing that exciting. Whereas Breedlove was having lychee and melon and
different textures.
A drink that tasted like peppers and whiskey, even though it was non-alcoholic.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, I mean, it really, and the yuzu seltzer, is that what it was called?
Yuzu
the yuzu seltzer? Oh my gosh. Yuzu is an Asian fruit, and it is in the citrus category, and I would say it tasted somewhere between kind of a tangerine and a grapefruit, sort of. So this was the beets, plum wine, yuzu meringue, and the yuzu seltzer. So this had beet foam. This was a beet foam.
And it had baby beets in it.
And it had baby beets, 2 baby beets. It was a really interesting experience. It was sweet and savory and had sort of an acidic quality, almost, I would say, like a vinegary acidity.
My second course was the Danish hiramasa with carrots and Okinawan potatoes. This was one of my favorites of the entire meal. This one blew my mind because the original basis for this dish was by Chef Nobu of Nobu, which if you know anything about restaurants, Nobu is a wildly famous restaurant. So this is a very, very cool dish. And I've never had fish taste like this. It was so light. It was so easy to eat. The carrot puree on the bottom was very good and had just the right amount of heat to it to be really interesting without being off-putting to someone who wouldn't like heat.
My dish in this category was the heirloom tomatoes, gazpacho, and 100-year balsamico with tomatillo and melon beverage.
Yeah, non-alcoholic.
Non-alcoholic, zero-proof beverage. So I will tell you this: if you're a fan of tomatoes, if you're a tomato enthusiast, you have got to try this because it is literally nothing but a whole bunch of different sized tomatoes all together, including a dollop of sun-dried tomato.
I told him that in my Wish Food video, you can see a review of Enchanté, where
right.
I had tomatoes 4 ways, and it very much reminded me of that.
Yeah.
My third course was the wild turbot with fennel and baby leeks.
The what?
Turbot.
Oh, turbot.
It was served with the Domaine du Roc des Boutiers Pouilly Fuissé.
Whoa.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
That was good.
Which was basically a Chardonnay. He said a steel-aged Chardonnay, and it did taste like a steel-aged Chardonnay. It paired very well with the fish. It became very like, both the wine and the fish became more mellow when paired together. The fish was amazing. All the fish that I had at this meal was unbelievable. The way that the fennel and the leeks complemented the fish, and then just the amazing flakiness of the fish with this like golden crust on it, unbelievable.
So the next course for me was Arrowhead cabbage pastrami in quotes and rye gnocchi. Okay, this was really interesting. Christopher came out, our waiter server came out and explained to us that one of the chefs is from New York, which I just moved here, 2 years ago from New York City, where I lived for 20 years, and he was talking about Katz's Deli that is downtown, and
he painted a picture.
Yeah,
I
he
felt
painted
like I
a
was in New York
picture, and I was
City.
like, yeah, me too. And he talks about, the pastrami and how the pastrami is actually
a spice and not a meat.
And not a meat.
But the whole time it's been corned beef just with a spice on it.
Oh my gosh. So, right, exactly. Unfermented white wine, which I asked the chef if there was a difference between unfermented white wine and regular grape juice. And
she basically just said it's fancier.
Yeah, she just said it's fancier. It's cold pressed.
She said it's cold pressed.
It's
not your Welch's. My next one was the Glacier 51 toothfish with charred mushroom and sambal. This was paired with the J. Christopher Bella Vita Vineyard Pinot Noir from Dundee Hills, which is the place where they originally made Pinot Noir. I have never in my life had a Pinot Noir like this. This was the first and maybe the wine that this happened the most with that I tasted, and I was like, holy moly, this is a fancy wine. It was unbelievably good. There was very low on tannins, very easy to drink, a remarkably light color, but the most robust flavor I've ever had in a Pinot Noir ever. And the way it paired with the Glacier 51 toothfish, aka Chilean sea bass, which is one of my favorites, was spectacular.
Yeah, totally the same for me. I just want to shout out the bamboo rice as it's called in the menu. But it was actually these little pockets that were almost sort of like the casing that maybe a spring roll would be in.
Yeah, like rice paper.
Yeah, rice paper. So it's rice inside rice paper.
My fifth course was the green circle chicken, and this one was very, very good. It was some amazingly cooked chicken. The chicken cut like butter, which I'm not sure I've ever seen in my life chicken cut like that. I'm used to red meat cutting that way. The main flavor was truffle here. Chicken for me just doesn't ever feel that fancy, and it didn't hold a candle to any of the fish that I'd had so far, but it was an amazing course. I think it was important to have a chicken course, and this was paired with the Vigneti del Salento Leggenda Primitivo di Manduria wine, and this was a wine with a huge flavor. I was surprised because when it paired with the chicken, it was super peppery as well. All right, my next course was the lamb with pickled blueberries and violet mustard, inspired by Chef Matthew's sort of childhood and current tradition where he goes blueberry picking with his family all the time, which I love when the chefs are personally informing their dishes. This dish was not my favorite. I am not a lamb fan, and it was lamb 3 ways. The one I liked the best was the lamb on kind of if you're looking at a clock, 10 o'clock-ish, which was almost had a pulled pork texture but fancy, was lamb collar, and it had a whole blueberry on top with the blueberry. It was amazing. The rest of the lamb was amazingly done, and I think if you're a lamb fan, this dish would have knocked your socks off.
Also, the wheat Lacoche in this dish is actually, I thought at first they were truffles. They are not truffles. They're like Mexican truffles in a sense that they are a mushroom that grows on corn, and that's what gave it kind of a funky taste. It was like earthy, funky, but delicious. And after I heard the story about how this is the Mexican truffle, it's a truffle that's actually many people say is more delicious than a truffle that grows on corn.
round
It was a collection of beans. They were very fine. There was some lattice work. It also had little potatoes, and it had turnips, and it was soft on the inside. And I told Quincy it tasted like a mozzarella stick.
It did taste like a mozzarella stick.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was fun. It was good. It wasn't my favorite dish of the night.
Now, Breedlove and I did get a chance to try the extended 9-course menu tonight. In the standard dining room, the menu is typically 7 courses. The 9-course menu is what you get at the Queen Victoria dining room, which is a special, more private and cozy dining experience, or at the chef's table in the kitchen, both of which we got a chance to tour tonight. We did get that extended menu. Now, there is a chance when you dine in the regular dining room that the extended menu will be offered for an upcharge, and you can certainly speak to your server about that. But generally, you would get the standard menu, which would skip for the meat eaters, the turbot, and the Miyazaki A5 Wagyu Beef. All right, my next course is the Miyazaki A5 Wagyu Beef, one of the extra courses with the potato roasty and romesco, and this was served with the Domaine de la Solitude Chateauneuf du Pape, which was, again, we're getting heavier. This was a tannic wine, but the tannins were not overbearing because he said of the way the wine was fermented, the tannins weren't going to be overbearing. The beef was so rich, and I was so full at this point that was honestly a little bit overwhelming. Same with the roasty. It was so delicious and had so many layers, and it was shredded so fine and just like soaked in butter. But it was just such a rich dish.
My next course was the carrot tikka masala, cilantro, and puri. And the puri was a little bread pocket, and this was cute as can be. It came in a little container of its own next to the tikka masala, which was, like the tomato dish I had earlier, all about carrots. And this was a really good dish made with Indian flavors. I love tikka masala, so it was really fun to have it made with a bunch of different kinds of carrots. And the beverage for this course was the cassis, which was this kind of, I would describe it as syrupy, but very light, like almost a watered down syrup that also tasted like fresh juice and looked like fresh juice. As
a transition from the savory into dessert, we did have the cheese plates, which as referred to in the menu as preparation of cheese. There was honeycomb on this that I literally, it was getting stuck in my teeth, and I would have eaten like a ball of it. It was so good. And you had a vegan one.
No, I think we both had it.
Did we have the same one?
I think we had the same one. It's fake honeycomb. That's like a caramel honeycomb.
Oh, that makes sense. It was so good. Everything on here paired so well together, and that cheese was a brie where they tried to make it so that the rind and the cheese were indistinguishable, and that really was the case. Getting a little bit of everything here was key. It was so amazing. And then Breedlove had a cashew milk version of the cheese.
I had my cheese that was kind of coconut tasting, and I didn't love it.
You didn't love it?
You know how I have a thing about things tasting like coconut?
Yeah.
It tasted like coconut. I would have preferred that it was I like cashew cheese, but
yeah.
And
then this came with the Sherry Gonzalez Bias Nectar from Pedro Jimenez Jerez, which this was an extremely sweet sherry. Again, towards the end of the meal, sherries are usually had towards the end of the meal. I had trouble getting through this glass. It was so sweet, and it went so well with the cheeses, and it was a perfect transition into dessert.
Now is time for what I'd like to describe as the dessert parade. And it started out with an acai granita, which was a kind of ice cream. Yeah, it was an ice cream
big bowl of ice.
Served in a bowl of crushed ice. But it was like really an incredible presentation. And then you had this like delicious kind of a dollop, just a little dollop of this acai granita ice cream stuff. And it was just perfect. And then on the side, it had a warm peach raspberry cookie. Oh my goodness. The Praline Temple came out, and it was just
praline.
Yeah, Temple of Praline. And it was like praline, kind of brittle on the outside. It had a chocolate cake base in it, but it was everything. There was
literally
like mousse-like qualities.
He took a bite and he was like, "There's no way this is vegan."
Yeah, I couldn't. And it didn't taste like coconut, like that thing that I disliked about the cheese. You know how people use coconut to make creamy things a lot, and then it tastes like coconut.
So the first phase of my dessert was a raspberry sort of like cream thing, and it went along with the warm chocolate cookie. They like to pair hot and cold together, and that's certainly what they did here. These two things went very well together. They were very well on their own. The raspberry was super fruity and delicious and light and perfect for the end of the meal. I'm not a huge chocolate person, but the chocolate cookie was not overbearing either. And again, they paired so well together that I didn't even mind it at all. The spectrum of chocolate was the next thing I had, which was this beautiful globe of chocolate. This was unbelievable. Very high quality chocolate, all different kinds, from white chocolate all the way down to the very, very dark chocolate. Biting into this, it was not overly rich. It was super creamy, very chocolatey, but not in a way that was off-putting to me, who's not a huge chocolate person. And then you finally, just the way you come in with a few little bites, you leave with a few little bites. So we had 4 amuse, well, I guess no longer amuse-bouches.
Yeah,
Au revoir bouches.
Yeah, it was amuse good night.
Amuse good night.
Bouche, good night, bouche.
Mine was a pistachio petit four, a praline truffle, a Russian pavlova, and a tropical caramel. Finally, I did have the coffee, which they brew in the most amazing brewer I've ever seen in my life. It was like jaw-dropping the way it worked. I want to buy one. It was so cool. And the coffee was amazing. It is a Joffrey's coffee blend that they brew specifically for Victoria and Albert's. And I drank like 4 cups in like 5 minutes. The chef de cuisine at Victoria and Albert's currently is Matthew Soares. We were able to speak to him. He's kind of heading up the menu right now and doing an amazing job. The maître d'hôtel is Israel Perez, absolutely spectacular manager of the dining room. Very, very wonderful human being just in general. And we did meet the pastry chef of the entire Grand Floridian, Christine Farmer, as well, who was totally,
my favorite.
She had very cool braids that Breed Love loved.
I love
and
her.
She heads up all of the pastry at the entire hotel. Final thoughts on Victoria and Albert's? Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's truly worth the money. I know that's hard to believe
It's
because
hard to believe.
So expensive, but the work that's put into creating the food and the quality and the flavor of the food, everything was perfect.
And the service was impeccable. I fully believe that if you have the money to do this, that it certainly feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is something that I would save up to do.
Me too.
It's something that would absolutely be worth it for me at some point. If you're not into fine dining, if you can never fathom spending what literally could be an entire Disney trip on dinner if you have like multiple people going, then absolutely skip it. You do not have to go to Victoria and Albert's. The food is amazing, but I've also had amazing quick service meals in Disney World. Obviously nothing that compares, but if fine dining is not your thing, that's totally fine. We had an unbelievable night.
Yes.
Maybe one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. The dining you get there is unlike anywhere else, and there's certainly a reason they charge that exorbitant price on the menu and on the wine pairing.
You get your money's worth.
You get your money's worth.
Experience and flavor.
But it is certainly, it's something that I certainly can't afford right now.
No.
And I would have to literally save up to do.
Completely.
And I would. And I probably intend to start saving for it to be able to do it for fun instead of for work. But it is not something to be taken lightly. Definitely use this video to your advantage. Like, look at it, see if it's the kind of experience that is actually worth that kind of money to you. If you like this video, go ahead, like, and subscribe. And now go watch us review Grand Floridian Cafe, a much more affordable meal.
Yes. I was wearing a hat there.
He was not bald.